Season 1, Episode 1 of Open the Box podcast. Joined by my special guest, my good friend, Bo. How are you, mate?
Hello. Very well, thank you.
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. So, essentially, this podcast is just, weekly chats. We talk about different topics, some humorous, some fun, some serious. Just allow us to express what we think, and we encourage you to do so too. Get involved in the conversation, leave a comment, and there's an option for you to send us an email at questionsotb for open the box at gmail.com. We're going to go through every week just to give it some structure. We'll go through the topics in alphabetical order. So, this week being the first week.
What's on the hit list?
So I think to open up, we're going to go for alcohol. Alcohol. Interesting topic, funny topic. But before we get into that, Bo, being our very first guest, alright, and being a new guest, tell me your first ever memory that you can remember.
One of the earliest being Chris Bracewell.
Good friend of ours, for anyone that doesn't know.
Chugging down, I think, a litre bottle or half a litre of Frosty Jacks, and then instantly throwing up in his back garden.
Oh, Chrissy. He's a muppet. Anyway, so how often do you say you drink alcohol?
I would say a lot less than the average person. A lot less. For my medical reasons. As well as the fact that I feel if you go out too much, it sort of loses its thrill quite a lot.
I know what you mean. Like, for me, when I was... First time I had a drink, I think I was 15, 16. And it was just so, like... I don't know, it's just something... It's one of those things that you want to do because it's... I don't know, like, you just want to kind of be a bit rebellious. Yeah, you want to let loose a bit. And I think, obviously, because I've never experienced it before, you just go way too hard. I remember a good friend of mine with James Attenborough. We'd obviously never experienced with spirits before, and lo and behold, to be fair to us, we were both about 15, 16, and we put a big old dent in some, I think it was a 700 milliliter bottle of, I think it was Grey Goose, but yeah, we put a big old dent in that, and I don't think I've actually been that pissed since, so I think I'm a bit of a lightweight. Yeah. What do you think?
I think you're a bit of a lightweight too. No.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought I used to be a bit of a big man just drinking. The thing was that before uni, we'd have a massive...
You do get shown up at uni.
Exactly, we'd have a massive meal for a night out and usually just stick to beer. But at uni, going out so often, so much, you just get bored of it. You get bored of waking up hungover.
It becomes a routine.
Exactly, and because of that, I was trying to come up with ways to get as wrecked, but without drinking as much alcohol. And essentially, that was just basically
going out less, and then going harder when you do.
Yeah, true. But for me, it was literally go for a run, don't eat, have limited water after, and then just hit the drinks. But that is dangerous, and I wouldn't recommend that to anyone because that was dangerous.
Bad news. Very
bad news.
Very bad news.
What has been your funniest experience on alcohol?
That's quite a big question.
Or give me a recent funny one at least, or maybe not the funniest, but something that was funny.
Went to Tom Brancher's the other day. Shout out to Tom Brancher. And we went down to the pub spontaneously. Got absolutely fucked, and then came back, and I just was far more drunk than I expected myself to be. And just passed out. David Attenborough. Yeah, Tom was having a zoo outside and I was throwing up, missing that. And I wasn't happy.
Yeah, I think for me, ironically enough, you were there, and it was when we went to Poland. Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, Eastern Europeans can smash their drink. Like, I've never witnessed people drink as much as they have. And being where we were in Poland, that's, just like that's the area of like vodka and like especially Russia and stuff. And
it's their culture. Huh?
Yeah, we bumped into this Polish guy. I can't remember what was his name. He was one of these. He's one of those people that wanted to be like a really cool dad. But he did pull it off. To be fair, he was a cool.
He was quite. Cool.
He had an English name as well, but he was a proper like Sebastian through and through Polish guy. Anyway, we go to the beach, have a hot day out, and he's come back, and he's passing around this vodka, and no word of a lie, it tastes like. It honestly tasted. I don't know. The best way to put it is it tasted like, you're a kid and you used to eat toothpaste, or was that just me?
That was just you.
Right. Okay. It's that feeling where
it tasted like it shouldn't.
It's just like, or actually a better way. The inside of an After Eight. Yeah. The minty peppermint.
Yeah.
No word of lie. The vodka tasted like that, and I just felt like I was drinking like peppermint treacle, and it was just.
Was that by the bonfire?
That was when we were coming back from the beach in that horse and cart.
In the horse and carriage. Yeah.
We were passing around that vodka, and I was just chugging it back. I was gaining a bit of Dutch courage to try and talk some Polish bird. Polish birds are very attractive as well, and I was getting a bit of Dutch courage to talk to this girl, and.
Backfired on you.
Yeah, probably went a bit too hard on it, and next thing I know, I'm
regretting it highly.
Yeah, I'm making an absolute tit of myself. The only thing I remember is falling over and smashing my head on the side of the cabin. I think I went to go for a piss around the side of the bush, and just KO'd. Passed out, walloped my head on the side of the cabin. I think
this was the same night you threw up around the back of Jamie's dad's.
That was all on the same night, mate. And yeah, I've never been that drunk in my life. But I was very fortunate
you were all
that.
over the place, mate.
I know, yeah. I was fortunate that I was in a safe area, and.
True.
I was with good company. I was with my friends, and I remember waking up.
People.
Exactly.
Drink responsibly.
Yeah, I remember the morning after, and I wake up in bed. I basically wake up with my face in a bucket, and it was really weird because it was one of those situations where you wake up from a night out but you feel fine. I think it's because I was still pissed. Like, we've all been there. You wake up and you're still wobbling everywhere, and I remember you boys were filling me in on things that I did that night, and you were like, you were teasing me and stuff, but like, my first feeling was just embarrassment, and I was just like, what have I done? Like, how have I, because I was I was 18, turning 19, I think. And
just realised you tried way too hard.
Yeah, I was just a bit embarrassed, but past the embarrassment, like, to be honest, that went quite quickly. But obviously I apologise for being an idiot and stuff. But then the next feeling was just almost guilt, because as I said, I was in safe hands with safe company. And I was just thinking to myself, imagine if I was somewhere that wasn't safe, wasn't stable, or I don't know what the right word is, but you know what I mean. And something really dreadful could have happened. And to be honest, since then, I've only been. I don't think I've never been that as battered as I was, but
bit of a wake up call.
yeah, it's a weird one because it's funny. You want to make it's one of those ones where you want to make a funny story and laugh about it, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I was just like, shit, like what have I done? Could have gotten some serious shit. And to be honest, like since then and a couple other times at uni, I've never wanted to properly lose control of that again because A, I made a tit myself, B, could have got myself in trouble, and also it's one of those ones where when you don't remember the night. Have you had that before?
Only a few times. I don't really tend to get myself that drunk.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, exactly. You've obviously got your reason. You've got like medical reasons and that for it, but
true.
It's such a waste. Like it has happened to me a handful of times at uni. And you go on a night out and you just don't remember the night out. It's just such a waste of time. And like since then, I have done a few. Like the other day, I did a sober night out, and because I was doing taxis for my mates and stuff, and I had an awesome night. I had a wicked night, and I was just thinking to myself, like, do I really need? Like, it's nice to have a bit of booze and get a bit shapy, get your moves on, but at the same time. You don't
true.
need. I think it's just. I don't know. Just.
It's very true. There are occasions where, like I've had occasions where I go out and the night just doesn't go to plan.
Yeah, I know.
And you're just left. Like I've been left. I'm a taken man, so I've been left for the road really.
Well, boys have gone for the pool.
Yeah, boys have gone for the pool, and I'm getting the.
I know what you mean. Like for me personally,
I'm
not
quite drunk enough to be staggering around.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. It's another factor as well because, like for me, I've been single like pretty much forever, and I've not really experienced obviously proper relationship, and like for me. A lot of the time going out is like going out to pool and stuff, and I think it's something that I applaud people that go out in a relationship and don't make a fool of themselves and don't do anything silly and don't do anything they regret because fair, it's mature of them,
morals, people.
Yeah,
morals
exactly.
Straight.
But it's a weird one because we're still young. Like I'm only 19.
True.
And I feel like I've got quite a middle-aged approach to booze, even though I'm about to go into my second year of uni. Like,
true.
I don't know. It's have fun, but at the same time, I think the message to take from my story is have fun, but
don't be stupid.
Yeah, don't be stupid.
Don't play yourself.
Yeah, don't play yourself. Know your limits and stuff. But so that was one of my embarrassing / worst experiences with alcohol. Do you have any bad experiences with alcohol?
Yeah, I have a few. Worst being necking maybe half or a quarter of Bombay Sapphire.
Yeah.
Enjoying my night.
Like a bit of gin.
Yeah. All going cushy. Go home. Have a seizure in my sleep.
Yeah.
If you got epilepsy, don't drink.
Yes, for anyone who doesn't know, Bose, he's fair play to him for talking about this. He's got epilepsy and like, am I right in saying that alcohol brings that on quite a bit?
Yeah. Epilepsy and alcohol don't go well together.
Yeah, they don't go well, do they? But like,
it's alright as long as you're sensible. You get.
I think it's. I feel like I'm not really. I can't really talk about it. So like, what advice would you give to someone, or what would you say to someone else who's going through that as well?
It's more just being sensible with yourself. Make sure you take your tablets, whatever medication you're on.
We're all on your back, aren't we, to have your pills and stuff? Because it's
true.
Was it 1 in the morning, 1 at night?
Plus 2.
2
in the morning, 2 at night.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. and make sure you have enough sleep. Make sure you eat properly. And just generally look after yourself. And, you know, as long as you don't take the piss out of your body and you don't, you know.
Exactly, that's a good
basically
bit of advice.
Just don't take yourself for granted.
Yeah.
Don't test yourself.
Like, and as I say before, that is the point of this podcast. What we're trying to enforce is, you know, as we like kicking it off, we are talking about, you know, a topic that could be fun, but at the same time, it is quite a serious topic, and I think it is important to mention these things. And, you know, for anyone out there who is going through perhaps what Bo's going through with the whole epilepsy and stuff, you know, you're not alone. Bo's out there as well.
True.
And if you've got any questions, just fire them either to the email or in the comments below. That'd be great.
Do send us questions.
Because
that helps the movement, you know.
Exactly. And something we're trying, for me, the concept of Open the Box was kind of quite a friendly way of saying, you know, like with the logo on the, you should see in front of the podcast, is just, you know, if you've got something to think about, if something's, you know, open up, you know, seek help, ask questions.
Nothing wrong with it.
Exactly, you know, especially with men, it's quite, that's a whole different topic and a whole different podcast, but
True.
there is a bit of a barrier for everyone really to speak about stuff, and I think it is really helpful to do so. And so I feel like we've covered quite a bit there. We've spoken quite a lot of depressing things about alcohol, but what would you say what is the best things about alcohol then?
I have had some great times with alcohol. Stumbling around Gloucester, really.
It is
some
fun,
of the best.
isn't it?
It's sometimes just the simplest stuff, really.
It's hard to explain.
Just the fact you spent £100 in the night and you still end up in McDonald's eating it.
Yeah.
You still end up in McDonald's.
I love the fact it's such a British thing that everyone just gets pissed all the time.
It is fun. There's no denying it. It's fun. But
for me, like, I feel like I've just become overly confident almost.
Far too confident.
Far too big for my boots. And,
if you weren't in the environment that you were in, you're definitely going to.
And you see it a lot with some people. You know, you'll be at a prees or a house party or whatever, and they'll just be sat around not really saying much. And then a couple of beers down, and the life of the party it's funny to see.
True.
You know,
characters do come out.
Exactly, like it brings out. I think the thing with booze is that it kind of amplifies everything. So if you are confident, you're more confident. If you're happy, you're more happy. But then on the flip side, if you're sad, you're more sad. You know, stuff like that. But what's your go-to drink? If you had one, or maybe three.
Okay, I like to start off on a beer. You know.
Yeah. No, that is. Yeah.
I do like a beer at the start of a night. A couple of beers.
Yeah.
Then I move on to, you know, your standard vodka orange.
Vodka orange.
Yeah.
Very feminine.
Vodka juice, you know, all that. And then
very feminine.
just Jaeger bombs in the club.
Oh.
Quick. Effective.
Yeah, it gets the job done, doesn't it? 2 for $5.
Yeah.
Sorted.
Yeah, quick and effective. And yeah, I quite like them as well, Jaeger bombs.
Yeah. For me, like growing up, I was always like a dishwater lager person, like a Foster's, an Amstel,
a
Heineken. But now I'm a bit more of an ale man, and like it's more fruit. It feels a bit more like flavoursome, a bit more fruity, and it's
almost like there's a bit of a craft behind it.
Oh, stop it! That is. Oh no. If you didn't know, Bo's a full-time professional comedian, and That's one of his best pieces of material right there. But no, I think for me, I always like to start on an ale or a beer for a night out, or just purely for enjoyment.
You're a country gent.
But yeah, I feel like I'm and then I'm not a vodka Coke guy. It's everyone's drink, but for me, they just don't.
I'm not a fan of Coke with vodka. It just
They
seems to
don't.
clash.
They don't.
Vodka
They
and Coke
clash.
don't go together.
They clash
I'm
too
sorry,
much.
people, but they don't. I'm all about Team Sprite when it comes
Yeah,
to
vodka lemonade. Yeah,
Vodka lemonade.
it just goes so much better. Or
Just works. Vodka Coke just
if you're
doesn't.
confident in your masculinity, I feel like I am.
Go on.
So I go for a vodka cranberry sometimes
Vodka cranberry.
if I'm feeling fruity. But apart from that, don't really drink that much. To be honest, I can do a tequila if it's one of those suicide shots.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? It's lick the salt, take the shot, eat the lime, you know?
Yeah. What are they called?
Suicide shots?
No. Suicide shots. So
Or is that's the next level one, isn't it?
that's the extra version. The next
Yeah.
level extra.
What's that again?
That's fucking some madness, bro. That's like
Snort the salt.
Yeah. It's
Snort the
some
salt.
bougie shit, yeah.
I think it's snort the salt, tequila in the eye,
Yeah, it's some.
and
I'll give it a little googly.
what do you do with the lime? I can't remember. Snort the
I'm not
salt.
sure.
Or was it? No, it's snort the salt, drink it, and then lime in the eye. Can't remember. Anyway, probably won't see me buying them at the bar in the club.
Okay, yeah, I've got it.
But apart from that, used to be a Jaeger Bomb man, but not anymore. Really not anymore. It's just Red Bull and Jaeger just doesn't agree with my stomach. Just not at all.
Red Bull and Jaeger.
Yeah, just Jaeger Bombs. Doesn't agree with me.
Oh, big. No, they're the best.
Just
Okay, so it's lime in the eye.
lime in the eye.
Snort the salt. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
There's a nice little in-betweeners clip up there of one.
Oh,
Well, yeah, it says lie the salt into a line on the tables. Yeah,
snort salt.
Yeah.
Guess just drink the shot. Lime in the eye, drink the shot.
Apparently, the in-betweeners clip is a perfect description.
What was it?
Snort the lime, take the shot, squeeze the lime juice into your eye.
Yeah, that sounds it. Snort the salt, shot. Right, yeah. Jesus.
Dirty.
Have you ever been dependent on alcohol?
No.
No?
No.
Do you feel like you have to... A lot of people feel like they have to get... Like I said before, people have to get absolutely rat-ass to have a good time. And like...
No, I disagree with
I
that.
don't know, like...
Highly disagree with that.
But the thing is as well, like...
I think the sort of middle ground is the best.
Yeah.
Best place.
Cool. Yeah, no,
Like sort of the more drunker middle ground. The middle ground where you know you're not going to throw up.
Yeah. Oh, that is the worst. But like for me, like as well, like for a night out, for example, we'd go out, always start on the beers, and just sink some when the taxi comes. Just sink some spirits as quickly as you can. Take some in the cab. Then you're good to go for the night pretty much. Maybe have a couple of. Get 2 for £3 VKs behind the bar if you're lucky, or 2 for 5 or whatever they are. But and then taxi home, but the amount of times I've woken up pissed still the next morning. But
when you wake up and you're not sober,
but
it's a very strange thing.
Exactly, but on like a serious note, like the times where you'd have to drive to a friend's house for the prees, taxis, and then get taxis there and back, and then the morning after.
Taxis home is one of the best parts of the evening. It's almost like your victory run.
Yeah.
It's the last 100 metres.
The McDonald's run. When you get home, the munch. Oh, nice warm bed, nice cup of tea, if you're not too smashed.
True.
But like on a serious note as well, like the amount I think so many people I know of have been culprits of drink driving the morning after, and my late great uncle lost his license for drink driving the morning after, and this was like gone midday as well. And something that shocked me the other day is that the limit is genuinely like a pint, and there's it's actually relative. It's like percentage of alcohol in your blood, and it's obviously relative depending on how hydrated you are, how big you are, you know, all that stuff.
So.
Yeah, and but you'd think that the morning after you'd be fine, but to be honest, there was one time where I got in the car and I was about to pull off, and I was like, I can't drive. I'm not, and this was, and as a result, I made a rule that I'm not going to drive home ever before midday the day after, just to be safe, because it's stupid as well, because you usually just, for the sake of a 50 quid cab, or I don't know how far away you live, like £20 cab home, it's just not worth it. Like, imagine you drive home in the morning, because regardless of the night of the morning after, driving home pissed, and the worst happens, and you know, you hit someone, or license gone for good.
It's true.
Maybe jail time, you know, but it's just not worth it. And yeah, I think, you know, safety first, you know, don't fucking be an idiot, and because I'm sure there's people out there who have got, you know, had issues with it before. But to be honest, I think that's alcohol pretty summed up for me anyway.
Yep.
What about you? Yeah,
I'm comfortable.
Alright, cool. And so I think, that being the first A of the first week, I think topic 2, should we have a chat about America?
Yep.
Lots to talk about with America. Obviously, recently in the news. Actually, let's rewind with America a bit. President Trump. What are your thoughts?
Okay, people, I'm not those who know me know that I am
anti-Trump.
Yeah, I'm not very good with politics, but I think Trump is very bad news.
Yeah. I never really delved
to do... Very dangerous man, in my opinion.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Some of the things he said, honestly,
it's just almost like, it's like having a goofy prime minister. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's crazy as well, because he's not really a politician. He's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman.
That's what I mean.
He's literally the equivalent of Richard Branson, but doesn't give a fuck about what he says.
Yeah, he just seems to be a bit clumsy with what he says, the way he goes about things, and when you do that, and you're like one of the most powerful men in the world.
Yeah, I think it's because he was very clever in his campaign run, because he, not taking shots at Americans, but their culture is just so fucked. Like, there's so much segregation and racism.
I feel like media plays a much bigger part in their culture than it does in
Oh yeah, of course. And you've seen some of the media in their country is ridiculous, you know, like all of like, it's like recently in like what happened in the news, there were these white supremacists, I'm not sure where, but it all kicked off, and there just seems to be so much like hostility and racism, like, you know, police cops in America, you know, brutality and whatnot. It's so wrong. And for me personally, I've been to America a couple of times, and the one thing I noticed about,
you loved it as well, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. New York was incredible. The sky looked like I literally felt I was walking up. I was in Manhattan somewhere. Like this, you say New York, you think London, but it's like 3 times the size. It's bonkers.
Yeah, like
but,
I always thought, you know, how much can a city be that different?
It's outrageous, mate. Like
when you think like Central Park is.
Central Park's amazing. It's literally hard.
Central Park's like almost as big as London, isn't it? Or some crazy figure like that.
I'm not sure. It's maybe not that big, but it's crazy the way it's literally just a square park in the middle of this urban
jungle.
Yeah.
Concrete jungle.
Yeah. And honestly, I was walking up some street in Manhattan, and you literally look up in the sky, and you look up, and there's a square about. You can literally only see the square over the sky of literally an inch square. Like it's like the size of these skyscrapers is unreal. Like I went to the Shard in London a while ago, and like that was enormous. But you imagine that on both sides of the road, even higher, even bigger. It's just scary. But I think that's just because I love London so much. I think it's the best city in the world. But
it's just too much for me, London.
Do you think?
Yeah, London, big cities. They're just like.
It's too much chaos in it.
Like, far too much chaos. It's like
especially Soho, Oxford Circus. Like
it's just like a group of. It's just like so many people just been cramped together, and they're just going about their own business. And everyone's selfish. They don't care about other people, and no one's holding doors for each other. And
yeah, that's just typical Londoner, isn't it? Just they want to get from A to B. But back on America, like. Just the whole. Oh yeah, one thing I noticed about Americans, they just their whole. You see it a lot on like Instagram and all this stuff, but they seem like really like aggressive. I found. Like a lot of people say that English people aren't like polite and quite like stubborn and rude, but I just found like. We're not generalising here. Just
I reckon
disclaimer: we're not saying all Americans. Yeah. We're saying in our experience. Of the Americans we've met, obviously. Well, I do have a really good friend of mine that's American, but he's one of the nicest people I know, and his family as well. But when I experienced Americans in America, actually, I'll give you a story.
It's the culture difference. Like,
it's a culture clash.
We're quite, as you said, blunt and cold, but to us, we're not. We're used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the same with them, I reckon. Like. We see them as maybe a bit too forward and a bit too, you know.
Yeah, they're definitely. There seems. I'll give you a really interesting story. Actually, I went on football tour to America, to New York, when I was 16, 17, and we went to watch the New York. I think they're called the New York Devils ice hockey team. Play whoever. I didn't know New York had an ice hockey team, but anyway, saw them play and. We sat down. There must have been about 20 of us, and there was a black guy in year above. He was just getting loads of racial abuse from a guy sat behind him. When we were, it was when we were leaving the game as well, and I was just thinking to myself like, it's just so out of order because for me personally, like, I think racism is just. Outrageous and just it's disgusting, and immoral. And for me personally, I feel like I'm quite empathetic, and I've always like told myself that I would never like. There's a whole thing of banter when you give me your mate's banter and that, and I would never. I made a promise to myself that I would never give someone banter or take the piss out of someone for something that they couldn't change. And I'm not comparing the two at all, like, but. You know, if someone had a certain feature that they didn't like or wanted to change, you know, I would never take the piss out of it. And I feel like, obviously, it's so much worse. The whole like racism in general, you know, it's a similar idea because they can't change the way they're born, and it's just.
And not only that, just like the stupidity of it as well. It's just unbelievable.
It's like, outrageous, yeah.
It's embarrassing. In my opinion.
And yeah, for me personally, I went to it.
It's so petty, and
it's that's outrageous. And like for me as well, I went to for secondary school. I went to kind of like an international school, like people from all around the world went to my school, and I'd say a vast majority of the people at the school were foreign and not like English, and or white male or white, for example. And some of my best friends coming out of that school were, you know, of a different ethnicity, and I just think holding that prejudice on someone for that is just outrageous. Honestly, it's disgraceful, and it's something that is.
I don't know why it's not stopped as well. Like from now, what we know, like obviously, I can't think of a person that thinks it's all right.
I know.
To be racist, yet it is still such a big problem.
Yeah, and it's so prominent, like as we say in America, and it's what's happening right now as we speak. This the white supremacy, KKK,
pretty much.
I don't know how to say it. I can't say it.
Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, and it's all kicking off.
3 A's, 2 K's in America.
What's that?
Joey.
I don't know that. But it's disgraceful, like, honestly. And it seems to be so prominent in America. America just seems so divided. Like, you know, in England we've got our issues with the current Prime Minister, with the Conservatives. Now more than ever there seems to be a divide in England and Britain because of you know, policies from Conservatives, and then, you know, and I'd hate to think what it's like in America, when the fact that it's not a case of people hating, well, for some people it is, but half the country hating the Prime Minister. But in America it genuinely seems a case of it's them, the Trump voters, and then us, the Hillary Clinton voters or whoever else. It just seems so divided that it's scary.
And I feel like as a nation, I feel like they're left quite...
Yeah, just a bit lost, like who to look to, and as well at the moment, the whole thing with Korea and that.
It's very, very...
He's literally, him and Kim Jong-un are just having a cock off. They're literally like, who's got the bigger cock? And it's just...
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, literally, it's just so pathetic, like, and to think that World War III might kick off just because they've had,
I mean, like, I feel like
their beef. Like,
if a world war is going to happen, you've got like the recipe lined up. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's all going to kick off. Like, we're all fucked.
You've got.
It's World War One was as devastating as it was. There was an incredible amount of deaths. You know, from then until World War Two until now, combat has changed, like,
enormous.
It feels like this isn't going to be it's not going to be a storming of Normandy on D-Day. It's going to be a nuclear missile from fucking from Battleship in the Pacific or whatever, and they can shoot it wherever they want, and to think that the impacts were just devastating, and to think that it could happen, and that was 50 years ago. At least, I think, and to think that it could happen, don't quote me on that, I think I'm wrong, but to think what could actually happen now is just
very scary,
and yeah, really scary. So, I feel like wrapping it up there.
Yeah.
So, thank you for listening, everyone. That was our first ever podcast of Open the Box with me, your host Charlie, and my good friend, my guest, Bo.
Big up.
Big up, everyone. Thanks very much. Let us know what you thought. Feel free to email us. Leave a comment in the comment section below.
And we will be continuing the series.
Yeah, we love some feedback, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Peace.